Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Roguery skill perk choices that I would make for characters in the hopes that maybe I can bring something to your attention that you might have missed. We're going to assume that all of these are working as intended, so later on, if they are broke and do get fixed, then you will have that option available to you. At 25, No Rest for the Wicked and Sweet Talker. No Rest for the Wicked is 20% experience gain for bandits in your party and 5% raid speed. Sweet Talker, 20% chance of convincing bandits to leave you in peace with barter, and a minus 20% prisoner escape chance in the governed settlement. For the main character, I would take No Rest for the Wicked, probably the entire game. 20% chance for convincing bandits to leave you in peace. I don't really have that come up hardly ever. So for my main character, I take No Rest for the Wicked. For another party leader, I also take it so that they can get bandits quicker. And then for a governor, absolutely Sweet Talker for the prisoner escape chance reduction. And of course, there is none for a captain. At 50, Deep Pockets and Two-Face. Now, this is one that you could take at different times and respec. With Deep Pockets, you double the amount of betting allowed in tournaments and minus 20% bandit troop wages, where Two-Faced is 50% increased chance of sneaking into towns and no morale loss for converting bandit prisoners. I personally use Two-Faced a lot. I haven't used Deep Pockets because tournaments are so much harder than they used to be. But if you can win tournaments, then yeah, you'd want to bet double the amount. And the troop wages aren't bad either. However, for Two-Faced, that's where it really comes into play with the no morale loss for converting bandit prisoners. When you convert bandit prisoners, you lose 2 morale per troop, unlike what you do with regular troops and lose only 1 to 1. So most of the times I'm going to take Two-Face. That also goes for your companion parties, as I would probably take Two-Faced as well. And there is no governor or captain perk. At 75, in Best Light and Know-How. Within Best Light, +1 extra troop from village notables when successfully forced for volunteers. I don't really use it that much. That's not where really this shines, and that's with the +20% faster recovery from raids for your villages. This was covered by my friend Hero, and I could not believe how quickly villages come back after being raided with this perk. It feels like it's a lot more than 20% from the video that he did, which I will go ahead and link for you. With Know-How, 5% more loot from defeated villagers and caravans, and +1 security per day to a governed settlement. So for me, this is pretty easy. I'm going to take in Best Light every single time. For the other party leaders, they're really not going to use in Best Light at all because I don't think they're going to force villagers. So I would probably put it on Know-How just in case they do raid a village or a caravan. For a governor, obviously Know-How since that's the only one, and there is not a captain perk. At 100, Manhunter and Promises. Manhunter is 20% better deals when ransom broke for regular troops, and +10 prisoner limit with Promises. Minus 50% food consumption for bandit units in your party, and +30% recruitment rate for bandit prisoners in your party. This is a very interesting one. For me, I like having Manhunter. The deals for ransom brokers for regular troops 20% more, that is pretty good considering you can get hundreds of prisoners after a battle. Now, sadly, this was nerfed. It used to be called Slave Trader, and it was +20% prisoner limit, and they nerfed it down to a flat 10. That hurts pretty bad as you could get a +20 to 40 prisoners limit increase with the old one, and now you don't get that anymore. However, Promises is actually not a bad thing with the minus 50% food consumption for bandit units in your party and that recruitment rate for bandit prisoners. This one is really up in the air as far as what you're going to choose. Personally, for me, I would still rather have Manhunter. That way, my companion parties or clan parties, they're going to be able to take more prisoners and sell them for more when they go into a feed. So I would lean towards Manhunter, but I can see a reason why people would choose promises if they're going to have a lot of bandits. 125, Scarface, White Lies. Now, I use roguery in virtually every game as I am big on that to get extra loot. This is right around the point in which I stop getting roguery because it takes a long time to do and a lot of work, especially if you don't have the useful companions mod. With Scarface, plus 30% chance for bandits, villagers, and caravans to surrender. It's not bad. And plus 5% chance per day to increase relation with a notable by one in a governed settlement. White Lies, plus 20% crime rating decrease rate and a 2% chance to gain relation per day with a random notable in a governed settlement. Now, the bottom one for the governor perk, that's kind of weird because if you look at it, they look almost exactly the same. So I'm not sure what's going on there. I don't really deal with crime that much for myself in my games. And I normally don't go after a lot of villagers and caravans because I don't want to suffer the relation loss. So for me, I take Scarface as I don't normally have crime and I don't do much with it, but it's there in case I need it because it can be pretty good for getting them to surrender. For a governor, here's that thing, it's plus 2%, plus 5%, and they're pretty close in text, just worded a little bit differently. So I would just go with Scarface all around, unless you plan to have some crime rating for any reason. For me, I just normally take Scarface for myself, and I take it for a governor as well with no party leader or captain perk. 150, Partners in Crime and Smuggler Connections. Partners in Crime, surrendering bandit parties always offer to join you, and plus 2% damage by bandit troops in your formation. Smuggler Connections, plus 10 armor points to equip civilian body armor, and minus 50% trade penalty when you have a crime rating. The crime rating is a little bit tough on Smuggler Connection as you're going to have a crime rating, and it's quite hard to sneak into towns, especially as your clan tier goes up. It becomes harder because you're more famous. With Partners in Crime, surrendering bandit parties always offer to join you, and that is a pretty big deal as you can get them and not as prisoners, but they will offer to join you as troops, so it can be something that is pretty darn amazing, unless you plan to do a lot of gang fights or if you plan to do a lot of prison breaks, then the plus 10 armor points to equip civilian body armor is not bad. Armor doesn't play a big role without RBM, but it's okay. So personally, for myself, if early on I'm going to do some civilian stuff, I'll take smuggler connections, but later on in the game, I will take partners in crime. And then I'll just end up giving that to my party leader since it doesn't do much to them saying that they're going to join you. I don't really think either perk helps out a party leader. But of course, for a captain, you would want to have partner in crime as well with no governor perk. 175, one of the family and salt of the earth. One of the family is plus 10 bonus to vigor and control skills for bandit units in your party. A governor of plus one recruitment slot when recruiting from gang leaders. Salt of the earth, plus 20% more loot when villagers comply to your hostile actions, and governor plus 5% tariff revenue to a governed settlement. Obviously, for myself, and probably for everybody else, unless I'm specifically going after villagers, I would definitely go with one of the family to get that extra skill. It's only 10, so it's not much. So either way, they're not the greatest skill in the world. And as far as the governor is concerned, it depends on if you want that little bit of extra money. I don't normally worry about money, and I would probably go with the recruitment slot, but it is really easy to max out recruitment in a town. So you're probably going to max it out later, and you might want to think about specking to it, but it does cost a lot of money. So you just have to figure out later on down the line, do you want that extra 5% money, or just go ahead and leave it on one of the family for yourself and for everybody else. 200, Carver and Ransom Broker. Carver plus 10% damage with civilian weapons, and then a captain perk plus 2% one-handed damage by troops in your formation. or Ransom Broker, both party leader, plus 25% better deals for heroes from ransom brokers, and minus 30% escape chance for hero prisoners. Now, I normally get the full 100%, but if you're not planning to get the full 100%, then going ahead and getting ransom broker might help you with not being able to have them escape from you because you might want to take them back to town and sell them. If that's your intention, you would take ransom broker. For me, I do like having the plus 10% damage from civilian weapons. Maybe early on in the game, I would go ahead and do that. This is one that I might spec back over because heroes are a lot of money. You can get a good 10, 15,000 out of one battle for heroes. 25% more can be thousands of dinars. So this is one of those that you have to decide if you're going to do a lot of civilian stuff, then you might look at Carver, but Ransom Broker might pay off way more in the long run for yourself, for party leaders, with a captain taking Carver and no governor perk. 225 arms dealer and dirty fighting. With arms dealer, you get a minus 20% price penalty for weapons. The second perk is a governor perk with plus 2% militia per day in a besieged governed settlement. 2% isn't a lot. I do have to say that is pretty weak, but it's more than what it was. With dirty fighting, plus 50% stun duration for kicks. Kicking, I know, is a big thing. It's something that I severely lack the skill of, but especially the way that they have with shields, where you cannot shield bash if somebody is blocking with a shield. I can 100% understand why you need to kick. So I know for a lot of reasons people want to take dirty fighting. Plus 2 random food items will be smuggled to a besieged governed settlement. This is going to be smuggled in to stop that. However, I don't think it's going to play a big role because it's just 2 random food. That's all it is. It might force you to have to, or somebody else to have to siege an extra half a day. That's probably all it's going to come down to, as you normally have maybe about 8 to 12 days worth of food in a settlement. So it's not really a big deal. Most people are going to take dirty fighting, and I probably need to start doing that a little bit more. But if you do have a lot of weapons that you're going to sell, arms dealer can be a massive increase. So it's up in the air depending upon your situation. For me, I take arms dealer since you get a lot of weapons from combat. For a governor, I would probably take the militia. It's still weak, but I think it's the better of the two options. For another party leader, you're absolutely going to take arms dealer so they get more money for selling their weapons with no captain perk. 250 dash and slash and fleet footed. With dash and slash plus 50% damage bonus from speed while on foot. I know you don't get a lot of weapon speed when you're on foot. You don't go fast, but I'm sure it probably does add up pretty good. The second one is a captive perk plus 2% two-handed weapon damage by troops in your formation. Once again, low 2%. Fleet-footed plus 10% combat speed while no weapon or shield equipped. I really wouldn't use it that much. I'm not exactly certain why you would use it. I'm sure people could come up with a decent reason. And then a personal plus 30% escape chance when imprisoned by mobile parties. I really don't get that much when I do get captured. I'd say I get captured probably once per game. So it's really not a big deal. I would look to have this definitely the speed damage bonus because I know it can add up, and a 50% bonus is to me a pretty big deal. So for me, I would take Dash and Slash. And then finally at 275, Rogue Extraordinaire, plus 1% loot amount for every skill point above 200. That's pretty big because if you think about that for a second, this is a 275 and it's above 200. That's plus 75% loot. I hope it's working correctly. And if it is, plus 75% loot right off the bat, you're going to make a ton of money if you can get it up to 275. I hope this helped you out in whatever game that you had. Please check out my playlist as I am covering one by one every single one of these skills and which ones I personally use. I hope this helped you out. Until next time, take care. and thanks for watching.